Hey everybody, Clint here again. It's been a while since I've told you some stories, and I was actually trying to figure out which story I was going to tell next. And when you know it, a memory popped up on Facebook from 4 years ago. It was an article I wrote about an encounter I had with a bad cop, a jailer to be precise. But before I can get into that, I have to give you the background on how I actually got there in that situation that I was in. Uh, when I was a little kid in kindergarten, I used to be a local crop duster, and when we'd be outside at recess or whatever, every now and then he would fly over and kind of tilt his wings for all the school kids. Inevitably, somebody would say, "That's Scotty Ho." Uh, it's not. It's not that we knew him personally, but all of our parents knew him. Everybody knew him. So I guess we kind of felt like we knew him too, and we looked up to him, literally, as he was flying over. Uh, Fast forward 30 years later, and I moved to Marble Hill, Missouri, and I was taking a walk down the road just outside of town, and I seen a mailbox that said Scotty Ho. I thought surely that's not the same guy I remember flying over as a kid, and as it turned out, it was. So I began to go over there and visit with him, talk with him, and we became really good friends. Now, if you've ever known any crop dusters, you know they're a different breed. Okay, they live on the edge. They're a little crazy, and Scotty was no different. And he was a hard drinker. Uh, Things I believe turned bad for Scotty whenever he started to have heart problems and could no longer fly because he was in manic depressant, and being able to get in that airplane and take chances kept him close enough to the edge, made him feel alive again. That was the high he was looking for, and he couldn't do it anymore. And so he began substituting flying with drinking. So inevitably, there came a time when his wife couldn't deal with it anymore and left him. And he took it pretty bad, and for whatever reason, he hatched this plan to drive to the grave of his first wife and commit suicide. Only he never made it that far. Unbeknownst to all of us, he embarked on this plan, kept it to himself. None of us knew what he was about to do. And he made it as far as Advance, Missouri, which is about 18 miles south of here. And he would later tell me that he had, a lot of whiskey and had taken Ambien the night before. So he was all over the road. Somebody called it in, and a cop in Advance pulled him over. And according to the cop, Scotty was brandishing a firearm. So he tased him. Personally, I suspect he was trying to commit suicide by cop. Only he wasn't counting on being tased. So he was shortly thereafter arrested and sent to the county jail in Bloomfield, Missouri. And he'd been there a couple of weeks and asked his daughter, "Hey, how do I get down there to visit him? Because I want to check on him. I want to talk to him." And she said, "Well, just go down there to the jail, and there's a buzzer on the door. Just ring it. Tell him who you're there to visit, and they'll let you in." Apparently, that was a courtesy they only extended to her because she was his daughter. So I went down there, went around to the side door, rang the buzzer, and all of a sudden I hear this guy on the other side of the door screaming, "Who the hell is it? What do you want?" He opens up the door. He's all in my face, screaming at me. As I like to say, he called me everything but a white man. Told me I had to have an appointment. So I said, "All right, whatever." As you can imagine, it didn't sit well with me. So I went around to the main office there at the sheriff's department and asked to see the sheriff. I knew him. He knew my family. But he wasn't in, so I talked to a deputy. Told him what happened. He said, yeah, you really need to make an appointment if you're going to come down here and see somebody. And I said, okay. But I asked him to tell the sheriff about this jailer that they had that answered the door and was all in my face for no reason. And apparently this deputy was true to his word. Because about 2 weeks after that, I called down there asking to make an appointment to see Scotty. And they asked me how long it would take me to get down there. So I told them 45 minutes. They said, that's fine. Told me to go around to the side door and ring the buzzer again. Which is what I did. And guess who answered the door again? Same guy. This would be my second meeting with a man named Roy Jones, who was a jailer at the Stoddard County Jail in Stoddard County, Missouri. So he's screaming, wanting to know who the hell it was. Told him who it was. Told him I had an appointment. He throws open the door, tells me to come inside, and he produces this little bitty stool. I'm not kidding. It was about this tall, about the equivalent of a shoe shine stool. Told me to sit on it. So I did. Roy wasn't a real big guy, so I'm guessing that made him feel bigger to make me sit on this little stool and tower over me. So he asked what my name was again. I told him. And I looked up at him. I said, by the way, what's your name? He told me, Roy Jones. I said, that's good to know. I'll remember that. He said, are you the one that complained on me? I said, yeah, I'm the one that complained on you. He said, I wasn't hateful to you. I said, yeah, you were hateful to me. You were out of line. That's why I told your boss. He then picks up a can of WD-40, throws it by my head, missed me by about that much, hit a locker beside me. And I looked at him and I said, if you're trying to intimidate me, it's having the opposite effect because all you're really doing is pissing me off. And Mr. Roy Jones and I got into it so bad and so loud that the sheriff came down the stairs. Roy quickly ran to the office. Sheriff asked me what the problem was. I told him what the problem was. I said, you got an out of control guy down here who shouldn't be dealing with people, period. I told him they worked for me. They worked for me. I didn't work for them. And I didn't expect to be treated that way. So then the sheriff asked me my name. And I told him. I said, you know me, you know my family. He said, are you Phil's boy? I said, no, I'm Glenn's boy. And I went to school with your son. You know my whole family, and you know that none of us are troublemakers. He said, well, who are you here to see? I said, Scotty Ho. What's your relation to Scotty? I said, he's a very good friend of mine. And about that time, the other jailer that was in the office where Roy ran to starts laughing and says, well, there's a guy upstairs that says he's here to see Scotty, and he's his best friend too. And I looked at the sheriff. I said, Scotty's got a lot of friends. And he kind of chuckled, looked at me, he said, yeah, you know, we've never had an inmate with this many visitors before. I said, I understand. And about that time, Roy shouted something from the office at me. I told him to shut the hell up. I was talking to his boss, not him. So then the sheriff looks at me and says, well, if he's got so many friends, why don't you all just pull your money together and bond him out? And I remember I looked at him and I said, well, gee, Carl, do you want me to pay you that 50 grand in cash right now, or do you want me to write a check? So it wasn't long, they went and got Scotty. And to their credit, they let me visit him for about 30 minutes. But before they brought Scotty down, I told the sheriff, I was like, you got a problem with that guy in there. You got a real big problem. You need to do something with him. And it fell on deaf ears. About a week after I went to visit Scotty, I got a letter from him in the mail. And he warned me. He said that Roy Jones said he was out to get me because I snitched on him, complained on him, and that he was going to bust me. Now, what Roy was going to bust me for, I have no idea. But again, I wasn't really intimidated by him. Scotty eventually went to prison for 2.5 years for that incident. And when he got out, he was a broken man. And he died a couple years after that, an alcoholic. And it was sad to watch. Very sad to watch. Maybe that's a story for another day. Anyway, that was 11 years ago. And 4 years ago, I was watching a local station out of Kentucky, WPSD TV6. And guess who I saw on the news? Roy Jones. And guess what he was in jail for, been arrested for? Incest. And if I'm not mistaken, possibly rape. I'd have to check on that one, but so, you know, I tried to tell the sheriff about this guy, and I don't guess he really cared, or he really didn't want to hear it, or who knows. Maybe he thought I was making it up. But that was, you know, that happened 4 years ago, and it was 7 years after the article. Well, he was arrested 4 years ago. At the time, it was 7 years after my incident with him. And I've been doing some checking and had some other people check on him. He seems to be playing this game with his lawyer, getting continuances and putting off the trial. This has been going on for 4 years. The last I'd heard, he was living in Illinois, you know, being allowed to live there unmolested. Yeah, pun intended. And apparently he keeps, his lawyer keeps getting continuances and kicking the can down the road, which is, it's kind of a common tactic with some lawyers because in their mind, and maybe there's some truth to it, the farther you can push back the trial date from the time when the incident happened, that incident is not as fresh in the judge's mind. So they think it's a good defense move. And I guess maybe so far it has been a good defense move for him. But somebody looked into it for me and said that he's still showing pre-trial, which means he hasn't been to trial yet. And it's been 4 years. However, if you believe in karma or what goes around comes around, or you get treated how you treat other people, if any of that is true, and I believe all of those are true, then I would say Roy Jones' struggles have not even begun yet, especially if he gets convicted for what he was arrested for, being a former cop. He's going to have a hard way to go. And it also made me wonder how many other Roy Joneses are out there in law enforcement. Most law enforcement, pretty decent people. But there's a small percentage of those who enter that field that are kind of pathetic in a way. They don't get into it to protect citizens, to serve and protect. They get into it to intimidate other people because for whatever reason, maybe they were bullied. Maybe they didn't have what it took to become a state patrolman. Maybe they just hated their lives. But whatever the reason is, there's a small percentage of bad ones that get into it for all the wrong reasons. And probably the majority of them don't get caught like Roy did. Anyway, Roy, I hope you get what you've got coming to you. And we'll be back with another story another day. Thanks for watching.